Today we're going to outfit a greenhouse with planter boxes and a workbench using these food grade pallets that are made of Japanese cedar, using a pneumatic denailer to take the nails out, and this custom made pallet breaker that I made. It's big and strong, just like me. See? So breaking down these pallets, pretty fast at it by now. They're definitely a lot of work, but you don't get pallets like this, so the work is definitely worth the reward. Just 2 more to go. And boom, like that, I'm done. Man, I wish it was that easy. So this is that denailer I was talking about. It's air powered. It's basically a reverse nail gun. And there's a lot of nails to be taken out. So using this takes very little effort and speeds the process up by 10 times or more. First set I did took me about 4.5 hours for 4, and now I can do about 4 pallets in about 45 minutes, so that tells you it speeds the whole process up. Just look at me go. A little close-up shot of that. So this is a table I made. We'll do another video on this whole thing, on breakdown of it, but this is setting up the planer, and it's on hinges so it can be used as a full-size table, or you can fold the tools up to be able to use them, or use the other tool or whatever. It's also got tape measure and stuff on it, but these pallet woods, basically like pallet wood would be, is all rough. So putting them through the planer, they go through a dramatic transformation. So on the other end, they come out looking pretty nice. I mean, look at that. You'd hard to think that's really pallet wood. So now we're going to cut those planks down about 2.5 inches wide. And these are going to be the framework for our planter boxes. So now, same thing, we're lifting the miter saw on the other side. Got our custom walnut stop block. We set that thing up, and man, look at me go. These 768 cuts that I had to make by pretty fast. As you see, I do 4 at a time, so it does speed them up, and we are making 4 big 7-foot long planter boxes, so that's why there's so many cuts. As I go through them, I'm pretty meticulous about the wood that I'm going to be using. So these are for the shorter sides, for the ends. So they're 7 foot long, but they're 24 inches wide. And obviously I had to make 879 cuts this time, but I'm pretty meticulous about how I do it. I'll go through and check out each hole. Even though you ain't going to really see it, I make sure I pick out the best ones. And then I start drilling pocket holes, and there's what seem like thousands of these things. Man, I just love this work. Yeah, there's a lot of pocket holes. I felt like I was here for days. So now as I put together the framework of each one of these, you can see I kind of put the ends together and forgot to record that. But basically I use a 50-inch DeWalt clamp here, and not a sponsor by DeWalt, but as you can see, they should. And I hold those into place with that clamp and then start screwing in pocket holes. This gets our basic framework together and makes it so it will last a lot longer. It holds together a lot better this way than just putting together some thin little pieces of cedar fencing. And this way, we have an idea of what we're gonna have. So there, I was just kind of double checking to make sure that these were actually adding up to the numbers I had placed in the first place. And I kind of noticed during this editing process, I kind of made a mistake. And I just kind of rolled with it. So anyway, I'm cutting down these side pieces. These are just, actually these are right here are fence boards. Western red cedar, and then I cut them down and staple them into place without me noticing that I still have a problem. And you'll see what it is here in a little bit. But I use staples on these, and they're all galvanized staples, so they won't rust and stuff. But I stapled these all into place, nice heavy duty staples. That also helps keep that all together, makes it really super rigid. I mean, I'm a big guy, and by the time I'm done with these, I can lay inside them like a coffin. But I'll tell you what, my shop smells wonderful after all the cedar's cut up. Measure twice, cut once, or is it measure once, cut twice? Well, luckily I do a lot of the measuring and cutting right. It's just my assembly process may be off a little bit. I don't notice it till right up here. And as I'm batching these out, I tend to make sure that one cut equals the next cut. And boom, my dumbass finds a mistake. So that middle brace there was supposed to be on the end. What a dummy. Luckily it was an easy fix. 4 little screws. It's not like, oh my gosh, I had to start over. But it definitely was one of them things like, oh man, how did I do that? But I'm definitely not prideful here, and you're gonna see a lot of my mistakes. Since this is the first video coming out, you're gonna see a lot more clowning around and mistakes that I make, because I ain't proud. You guys can laugh at me all you want, because I laugh at myself all the time. So here we're gonna start cutting out the bottom of these planters, and as you see, these are nice and thick. They're about 1.1 1/8 thick, and I don't plane them or anything since they're on the bottom. I just cut them to length, cut them to size, and put them in place. Man, there's a lot of these cut. So each one has 8 of these cut, and there's 4 of them. So I think that's, I don't know, 78, I don't know, 32, yeah, 32 boards that had to be cut. So I just go ahead and start chopping, and I'm a hoarder too, so these scraps here I'm saving because I use them for another day. After I get so many scraps, I either with the small ones we have a bonfire, or the bigger ones we make birdhouses or something with some kids. But we have these little end pieces to cut out to go around the legs, so I start marking them out and cutting them out using my, again, DeWalt jigsaw. Like I said, they should be sponsoring me. So you're cutting these out, and because there's 4 in each one, you know, there's 16 of these things that have to be cut out. So it's a time-consuming process to make one of these, let alone 4 of them. And I take things a little overboard on everything I do, so you'll see my pilot holes all have to be marked out nice and straight and neat. And, you know, even my pilot holes, when I drill them out, I'm trying to make them as perfect as possible, even though it's just for a planter box. So then we got them all cut out. It's time to screw them into place. As you can see, that tripods are moving around. It was hot out there. That's why you see me wearing my little swimming cap there. Keeps the sweat out of my eyes. But now we trim these, or cut these trim pieces out, and these go around the outside. Like I said before, you know, I use staples on them, and this covers up all them staple marks. It just adds a little bit of refinement on the end. But trim these out and a brad nail into the end using little headless brads. And by doing this right here, it sets me up, and I take it out, and instead of using a tape measure, I just mark it, and I mark the inside, whether it's top or bottom. And then that way when I go cut them out, when I come back, they're perfect. You don't have to worry about a fit not being right or cutting on the wrong side of the line or whatever. You pretty much know. See how it covers up all those lines there? It makes it look so much nicer. And the cuts are so tight that it actually holds it in place pretty well. So then as we go down the side here, kind of do the same thing. I just take a tape measure and see where the square point is. Cut 2 off there to make it the square point down the center. It's kind of easy way to do it. And then again, put them up there, and I mark up top and bottom. Put those in place, and then, you know, make sure all your little end pieces are nice and pretty. Brad nail those bad boys in place, and it starts to look pretty nice. So then as we start going down, you see I use the same technique there, starting on the corners. And because this is against the wall and against the corner, we only have to do the front side and one end of one planter box, because you'll only see one side and one end. I go down and I try to make it easy where I can cut both of them at the same time. See, that fit up there is just absolutely perfect when you measure it like that. Instead of using a tape measure, it's way better to bring it in and just mark it on the piece itself. So now we got the bottom shelf, which is basically the same thing as the bottom of the planter boxes. The only difference is I did plane these, so I picked out certain boards and made sure that each one was absolutely up to par and beautiful. They fit beautifully in there. See how tight that was? Yeah. As you can see there too, you can also see I didn't trim the back of these because it's not necessary, so the back does not look nearly as beautiful as the front. But we use some deck screws to hold these down in place, and yes, I overdo this one as well. I probably only needed 2 screws in each one, but a lot of them got 4. And remember, I'm building 4 of these, so it took me a while. So then we made a trim piece to go around the entire top to encase that. So here's a little trick that I use. CA glue. It's basically super glue that's for wood. And you spray this activator on the other side. Now you hold these together, and it only takes a few seconds. But you hold them together, and it gives you this perfect corner. Boom. Beautiful. Really strong, actually, too. I was really surprised about this stuff. But what that does is make sure all 4 of our corners are nice and neat, and then that kind of holds them together as we go and put that trim on the top. So this is usually done at like 6:15 in the morning, right after I get home from work. So luckily my neighbors across the street are deaf. I'm not kidding about that either. But my neighbors do love me for some reason. I have no idea why, but they don't mind me. They actually like all the projects I do. Here's a close-up vision of that pocket hole installation like I did on the framework as well. I really like using pocket holes. It kind of hides all that hardware. And from the outside, it looks like you never screwed anything together. It's just held together. I really like them. Some people criticize pocket holes, but like I said, it's one of my favorites. So Craig or Masca, just go ahead and sponsor me. As you can see, I'm not afraid of being or begging for sponsors. Look at that. Now another thing I forgot to record was me actually routering the edges and sanding this all down, but here's a good look of the corner pieces. Now remember, this is all pallet wood here, so you can see the nail holes, but I think it kind of gives a character, because I am a character. But if you look down in there, those things side by side, this is basically how it would look inside that greenhouse. But here's the finishing touch here. One of my favorite pieces is this burning of my logo into the bottom. That looks rad. Boom. So this is the inside of the greenhouse. How they're all in there. See how you can just see the side. Now most people would say these are way too nice for just a greenhouse, but there's no such thing as being way too nice in my opinion. I could have even done them nicer. And this workbench on the end that I built, I was in a hurry and didn't get it filmed, but I'm new to this filming thing, so cut me some slack. I did build some storage units in there and some extra stuff, so I had a blast doing this. And if you want to see more of this stuff, just continue to watch it, share it with your friends, hit a like button, all that stuff that you're supposed to do. But I really appreciate your time for watching this, and hopefully this turns into something, because I really like doing this. So we'll see you next time. Boom, baby!